Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the review of the Xiaomi 11T. So we've already reviewed and tested the Xiaomi 11T Pro and now it's time for a, I would say, slightly lighter version. I would say slightly lighter because it has basically 95% of the same specs except for the charging of the battery and the CPU inside. Otherwise, the camera is the same, the screen is the same, and the design is also very similar. Now, the price tag you'll pay for this phone is around $500. It still has premium materials, a 108 megapixel camera, and a higher refresh rate panel up front, a flat one. It also doesn't have 8K filming, just so you know, and also it doesn't have a 12 gig RAM version as the Pro model does. So let's see what the device is all about. First things first, the design. What we have here is a pretty solid build. I'm talking about the glass at the back side, glass at the front side, Gorilla Glass Victus protection by the way, and an aluminum frame between them. It's quite a beefy phone. I feel it to be pretty thick and heavy, 8.8 millimeters, going even higher, close to 10 millimeters with the camera protrusion, and 203 grams. We have a screen protection already applied from the factory on the screen, of course, and the bezels I would say are quite big for a wannabe flagship. Even the chin is a little bit bigger than we're used to these days. The good news is that we have IP53 protection, which is dust and splash resilience. The backside has a mirror finish, and all of those lines beneath the glass make it mimic metal, sort of. In spite of the fact that it has glass at the back, it's not very slippery. Well, at least until you get used to it. The first touch may make it seem slippery, but when you get used to it, it's quite comfy to use, albeit not with a single hand. That's something I should probably mention. It's quite tall and wide, so one-hand usage, not the comfiest in the world. Speaking of comfy, these buttons are quite comfy. We have here the power button, which embeds the fingerprint scanner, and the volume buttons are here. It's a pretty solid build, and I have to say that the backside draws quite a bit of fingerprints, but there's a case in the box. So that's that. Overall, a comfy use and a beautiful looking backside with a mirror finish, but a fingerprint magnet. Now, when we talk about the screen, we have quite the solid panel here, AMOLED, 6.67 inches, Full HD Plus resolution, 120 Hz refresh rate, HDR10 Plus support. This time there's no Dolby Vision. The Pro model kept the Dolby Vision as a selling point, calling it a whole cinemagic experience. I said cinemagic, not cinematic. Okay, let's watch a video here and judge for ourselves just how much quality this panel has. As you can see, the AMOLED is one of the good ones. It has an excellent array of colors. They're pretty vivid and crisp. There's a lot of brightness here. There are excellent angles, wide view angles, and a perfect contrast in the sunlight. Zero problems with that. Deep blacks and the small punch hole for the selfie camera doesn't distract you from the experience, which is always nice to see. That's that. When we put the screen under the microscope, we notice a pixel arrangement of the Pental Matrix variety, and we also did a brightness test on our sister site here, and as you can see, we achieved 573 lux units. It's one of the good results. It also means we're beating phones with a high profile like the Samsung Galaxy S21 Plus and the Realme GT 5G. By the way, we also beat the Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro, sort of a predecessor from last year. With this value, we stayed below the Motorola Edge 20 Pro, Poco FT and Xiaomi 11T Pro. There are many settings I could show you for the screen, and you can find them here. We have the separate always-on display and lock screen options, which, by the way, we do have always-on display available here with all of those tweaks and effects. Notification effects. You also have the display features, light mode or dark mode, brightness level, anti-flicker mode, reading mode, refresh rate is set to 120 Hz, can be set to 60 Hz. We also have a color scheme, and this is where it gets tricky. There are a ton of options here, starting with vivid, saturated, original colors, adaptive colors, color temperature palette, and if you go here, you have even more colors to play with. P3 sRGB, RGB color space sliders, hue, saturation, value, contrast, gamma. You can really get lost here. I recommend you stick with the recommended one unless you're a photographer who needs special settings for his work. When everything's said and done, it's a quality panel, zero objections about it. And now we go inside the phone with this app which shows you the CPU we have here. While the Pro version has a Snapdragon 888, This one opts for a MediaTek Dimensity 1200. I've seen this CPU before, actually quite recently, on the OnePlus Nord 2 Pac-Man edition. It's obviously also on the OnePlus Nord 2 regular one. It's a quality processor. It's probably one of the best CPUs that MediaTek has produced over the past year. It's a 6nm octa-core affair with up to 3 GHz in clock rate, and in the current case it's accompanied by 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage. There's also a version with double that amount, and we're talking about UFS 3.1. Quick mention for the lack of a microSD card slot, and also lacking is the lag, which is always good news. No matter what I did here, upgrades, updates, playing games, having a ton of apps open in the background, I didn't experience any trace of lag, problem or freeze, so that's always nice to see. Now, aside from that, I think it's time to discuss the benchmarks, and first and foremost I'm going to start with the famous Antutu. With the same value you see here in the Antutu 8 test, we're able to score below the Oppo Reno 6 Pro 5G and below the Galaxy S20 Fan Edition 5G from last year. Going to a less banned and more relevant test, the Geekbench 5 multi-core subtest shows us a value which is pretty impressive here. We're beating several of the flagships from last year, Huawei P40 Pro, Huawei Mate XS, and apparently even the Google Pixel 6 Pro and its Tensor CPU. A more relevant thing is that we're beating the Asus Zenfone 8. Still, we're no match for the gaming phone Poco F3, Galaxy S20 Fan Edition 5G once again, and the Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro. Speaking of gaming, we have the dedicated test, the 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1. Here we are with a value just above the Galaxy S21, which is not bad. We're also surpassing the Asus ROG Phone 2, which is not exactly a youngster nowadays, but we also beat the Huawei P40 Pro. This time we're below the OnePlus Nord 2 and the Galaxy S20 Ultra. The core idea that we'll keep here is that we're able to easily beat most, if not all, flagships from the last year, and that's the level we're at. Now, I think we're done with the benchmarks. Let's see the temperature. In benchmarks, we achieved 35.1 degrees Celsius, which is definitely no trace of overheating. In games, 34.5 degrees Celsius, once again, no overheating. Now, if you want to talk about the battery, as you can see written here, it's a 5000 mAh unit, lithium polymer, which is the same as the Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro. This time with 67 watt charging, not the crazy 120 watt, which is still pretty impressive. And also impressive is, as you can see here, the 19 hours and 52 minutes of continuous HD video playback. It's a solid result. With this result, we beat the Samsung Galaxy A72 4G and the Realme GT Master Edition plus the Oppo Reno 6 Pro. We score below the arch nemesis with the same CPU, OnePlus Nord 2, and below the Vivo X60 Pro. PC Mark is more relevant. It simulates continuous usage. And we achieved an impressive result, top 20 material, 15 hours and 56 minutes. This is one of the best ones lately in the high mid-range department. We beat the Realme 8 Pro, the Poco F3 and the Vivo X60 Pro. We stayed below the Vivo V21 5G and the Realme 8. Charging isn't half bad at 41 minutes for a full from 0 to 100% charge. We're on the 15th spot, and after merely 15 minutes you're at 47%, while 30 minutes of charging equals 86%. We also have some battery saving features, and now it's time to move on to acoustics. First of all, there's no audio jack here, and as usual Xiaomi is opting for a true stereo approach. One speaker is at the bottom and the other at the top, separated from the earpiece we have here. We also have quite a few tweaks and options for the sound. We go here and we're going to find the sound assistant, which provides us with, nope, not this one actually, sound effects. You have here Dolby Atmos, a bunch of presets, dynamic video, music and voice, and then the crazy customizable graphic equalizer with genres and 10 channels with sliders to play with. And now let's turn on some music. Okay, so let's listen to this tune. Okay, so you get the gist of it. The idea is the following. Although it's quite loud when it comes to the volume, I've heard louder than this, Pretty solid bass and nice high notes. At top volume, if you're listening to a heavy tune, you're going to notice some distortion. The body doesn't vibrate a lot, and the voices were pretty warm, at least in the latest Placebo singer. And also the Snoop Dogg latest singles from the new album had a lot of bass, so that was fine by me. Now we go back to our sister website, and we have some results for you. The volume power. First, we have some typical acoustic sample tests. With the bottom speaker, we achieve 80.7 decibels. With the top speaker, 81.7 decibels. And considering the top value, we were able to surpass the Oppo Reno 6 Pro and the Xiaomi Mi 11, but it stayed below the Realme GT 5G and the Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite. In games, we achieve 99 decibels. We usually require 100 to be happy. Well, 99 is pretty close. We beat the Oppo Reno 6 Pro, and the Poco X3 Pro stayed below the Motorola G100 and OnePlus Nord 2. As far as the camera goes, I'll say it again, the punch hole isn't very big for the selfie camera, which is a 16 megapixel shooter, and all the camera setup we have here is identical to the Xiaomi 11T Pro. Now, this was at the front, 16 megapixel and full HD capture. At the back side, a more imposing approach. We have the main 108 megapixel shooter here with AI. It's a Samsung sensor, ISOCELL HM2, combines 9 pixels in one, has face detection autofocus. Then we have the 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, and then a 5 megapixel telephoto macro camera. This is the dual LED dual tone flash, and we also have 4K 30 frames per second video capture here, plus quite a few options within the camera interface. These are the same options you'll find on the entire Xiaomi Mi 11 series. I'm talking about the more section especially. So we have here the short video, vlog, movie effects with this cool one here. It's called the Parallel World. It's inspired by the movie Inception. Clone, 108 megapixel shots, documents, time-lapse, dual video, night mode, panorama, slow-mo and low exposure. Portrait, of course, with AI. There's photo with AI as well, and HDR. This is the video, and you can confirm the max resolution is 4K at 30 frames. We also have a special steady mode, steady video, which apparently brings you a bit closer, and a pro mode for both photo and video. That's pretty much it, and I think it's time to check out the gallery of shots we've taken. Okay, so here we are with a gallery full of shots. Before anything else, I would like to tell you that even though the Xiaomi 11T and the 11T Pro share the same cameras, there's a difference here in the ISP image signal processor, which is different for the Snapdragon 888 and the MediaTek 1200. Now, let's get straight to the pictures that we've taken during the daytime. Okay, so first things first, I have to say that we're lacking a proper telephoto camera, but the digital zoom is quite fine at 3 or 5x. There's a bit of noise, but as far as digital zoom is concerned, things aren't as bad as you'd expect them to be. Okay, and they're actually pretty clear, these images we've taken here. I'm also pretty impressed by what the ultra-wide camera delivers, even though we're dealing with an 8 megapixel shooter, doesn't deform the image too much. And in general, the green hue of the vegetation was pretty well captured in my view. I mean, the greens were pretty well kept in check, and I didn't notice any sort of overexposure or weird colors or anything like that. Just look here at these trees. You can see it's a very vivid green, but still being kept within a realistic base. So we also have a selfie here, which is in an excellent manner focused on the subject, with the background being blurred. The selfie camera we have here is pretty solid. We've seen it on a few Xiaomi phones already. And once again, all of the shots are clear, detailed, crisp, and with a large quantity of light. Nice texture of this dog fur here. Now we move on to more colorful stuff. We can see some extra hues here. Once again, excellently rendered, and the sky is a clear blue and also a realistic blue. Some autumn leaves here, and one more selfie. You can see here the pores of the skin, and the expression of the face is pretty well represented on camera. Now we have even more colors. In this playground, you can see the texture of the metal, of the wood, and the plastic being separate from each other. You can perceive that from this shot. The same frame, but with an ultra wide twist and a bit of zoom, just to show you we can do it. Several macros here, some pretty good ones I have to admit. The focusing is one of the strong points of the phone, and you can see the difference in colors and textures. Basically each of these shots has a different hue, and it's actually flagship level, to be honest. When it comes to close-ups, this is one of the best phones that money can buy in the high mid-range segment, and you can see several more shots here which clear everything up. I would say it's comparable to the Galaxy S20 Plus, perhaps with better colors, and I would also compare it maybe with a phone which would put between the OnePlus 8T and the OnePlus 9. That's where it fits for the daytime capture. Okay, so this has been the daytime. We also have some cooking photos here, and I have to say they're actually pretty impressive. I mean, they're not the brightest in the world, but they're very clear and detailed. That's something to achieve here. You can definitely become a food blogger if you just use the phone. Now, you've guessed it, it's time for the low light gallery, the nighttime shots. Now, with the default setting, you're going to capture a lot of light. I actually didn't feel the need to activate the night mode most times, and when I did, there was a bit of cartoonish effect going on, but at least you can see the roofs of the buildings and the sky in a proper manner, so there's that. A lot of detail here. You can see each of these floor bricks, so to say, and I just got back to this picture here because I want to show the difference between a regular shot where the ground is dark and the roofs are dark. They're an unitary unit, so to say, but with night mode you can actually tell one roof from the other two. You can also tell the ground better. That's what the night mode does. It's more subtle here in these photos, but on a large screen is not subtle at all. This is an ultra wide shot. How can I tell? Just look at the lights. They're being expanded and it's as if they're being pulled by some strange gravitational pull to the side. All in all, it's a pretty solid affair here. Solid affair if you're counting on a high mid-range phone. It's not exactly flagship level, even though every once in a while it shines like a flagship. I did notice some orange hues here and there, but in general the quantity of details and light were sufficient for me in the high mid-range segment. Okay, so these have been the low light shots. Once again, it's able to fight other high mid-range phones from this year and even some last year flagships. And when it comes to the videos, let's count them. We have a total of 14 here, and let's take them one at a time. So this is a focus test, alternating between a bunch of fruit and background. Very fast focus switch. I'm pretty impressed by this. Next up, we have a panoramic view. I recommend you always rely on the 4K videos because the Full HD one tends to overexpose the vegetation quite a bit. The overexposure happens not in an exaggerated manner, but it happens on 4K as well. Okay, the zoom leaves a bit to be desired. Now, the selfie video may be well focused and decently stabilized, but the contrast is too intense for my liking, reminding me of a Galaxy A from 2020, not 2021. Some beautiful shots of plants here. There is a very rich scenery here. There are a lot of objects, subjects, and moving parts, and colors and texture to feel. This is one of the better videos, although the zoom definitely doesn't help us. Okay, however, when you're filming in close-up, you may be in for a surprise. This is one of the best phones when it comes to close-up filming. This looks like something out of a documentary, so keep that in mind. Okay, even more panning here and some zoom, which once again is not impressive. This is the stabilization test. Considering we don't have OIS, this is actually pretty good. And I'm loving the variation of the three branches. We had a bunch of reds, greens, yellows, and the hues keep alternating. And another test should be done. Let's see. This is another stabilization test where we're ascending stairs, and once again I'm pretty impressed by it. So not bad at all. I would once again place this between the Galaxy S20 and S21 series, minus optical image stabilization and minus a more impressive zoom. Now, we also have a low light video, is this one here. This is an area where the phone shows its true mid-range identity. The colors are a bit warm, if you ask me, warmer than usual. But if you just pan and not move a lot, you'll be happy with the result. If you try to move, there's a lot of ghosting and flickering in the image and a lot of reflections, and the image is quite shaky. So there you have it. That's all about the camera. If you feel it has been a very short segment, that's because we already tested everything on the Xiaomi 11T Pro. As far as connectivity is concerned, we'll get all the bells and whistles. We have 5G, we have Wi-Fi 6, we have Bluetooth 5.2, and we also have NFC for payments. USB-C 2.0 port at the bottom, and an infrared emitter here to control your TV set-top box and other devices. GPS dual band, GLONASS, Galileo and BDS, and the calls were loud and clear. Now, we did a bunch of connectivity tests, and let's see what happened there. Okay, so first of all, I'm blown away by these results. These are Wi-Fi 6 speeds. We got up to 668 megapers in download and a crazy 916 megapers in upload. This is one of the highest results ever that we've measured. And as far as 5G is concerned, we caught some signal here and there, but the network wasn't having its best day. We achieved 273 megapers in download and 15.8 megapers in upload. It could have been better. Now, as far as the OS is concerned, this is the same old story, MIUI 12.5 applied on top of Android 11. We have the leftmost home screen filled with news. We have the reasons for multitasking with 2 columns and some cleaning methods here, plus the floating windows. We have the split drop-down area between the control center with quick settings and the notifications on this side. We have the optional app drawer divided into categories: communication, entertainment, photography, tools, news, and more. We have this area with beautiful wallpapers, including the super wallpapers which people love so much with those cool 3D effects. We have customizable themes and the widgets, which haven't changed for about 3 or 4 years now. Okay, and the settings are quite abundant here. You can see them here. We have always on display option, notification and control center, home screen, password and security, privacy protection. You can remove location and metadata when you're transferring files, especially photos. Battery settings, digital well-being, special features like Game Turbo for the gamers. There are quite a few extras here to add. Video toolbox, second space and a light mode. And for security, we have the fingerprint scanner in the power button, which I just used to unlock the device. There are a bit of hits and misses every now and then. You can also use the front camera for the unlock of the device. We have proprietary apps and versions from Xiaomi for the gallery, music player, also a video player, which is this one, Mi Video, and it includes its own source of videos. You have the notes with a bunch of new features, especially for lists and tasks. And the most useful one is security. It's basically your optimization hub for the phone, with a ton of features. Facebook Cleaner, app locks, solve problems, data usage, test network, Game Turbo, and so much more. We also have a dark mode available on the device. We have screen recorder, do not disturb, and quite a few other features, including NFC, Dolby Atmos, and a reading mode. Okay, I think we've covered everything, maybe except for the most important thing there is here, the fact that you're going to get 3 years of Android updates and 4 years of security updates, which sounds pretty impressive for me. We also have the Mi Remote app here, which you can use to remote control devices via the infrared, and I think this time we're totally done. Now, we're at the end of the review, which means I'm going to give you the pros and cons for purchasing the handset. On the pro side, it's an excellent screen with a high refresh rate and a lot of brightness. Got a solid build with premium materials. Got an IP certification here. A great processor, possibly the best MediaTek processor that money can buy for now. We also have 3 years of Android updates. Solid cameras all around for colors, details in the 4K filming, stabilization, even nighttime photos and even selfies. I would also say that the battery life is quite solid and the charging is fast, and I'm pretty happy with the quality of the macro shots we've taken on this handset. Not to forget that we have a crazy fast connectivity here, which you saw before when it came to the Wi-Fi 6 and 5G. That's pretty much it on the pros. On the cons, the backside, those fingerprints, it's a bit of a heavy phone. There's no optical image stabilization, dedicated telephoto camera, no micro SD, and the zoom was a bit underwhelming. I should also probably mention that we're lacking wireless charging, would have been nice to have it, and the ultra-wide camera doesn't exactly deliver on par with the other cameras, and this is felt especially during the night time. and some overexposure here and there for some photos and some videos, but not a lot of them. Also, the selfie video could have been better in terms of contrast. Well, that's pretty much it from us. The review is now done, and let's draw the conclusions. This is one of those phones which can fight and replace a 2020 flagship. People are buying high mid-range phones in order to replace the flagships. It may not replace a 2021 flagship, but it can replace one from last year. It's definitely excellent for gaming. If you look at the screen and the CPU, it can definitely do the job when it comes to gaming and video watching, even though it doesn't have the Dolby Vision of the Pro version. The camera is also pretty competent, fighting the likes of the OnePlus Nord 2 with success, and several other models on the market like now, like Huawei Nova 9, maybe some models from the Honor series, and the Poco F3 and other things like that. I would even place the camera between the S20 and S21 series in some aspects, minus the stabilization and zoom, and in the end, it's once again a gaming phone with an excellent battery, the future-proof aspect of the 3 years of updates, and a quite solid high mid-range camera. That's it from us. We'll be back with more soon. This has been the review of the Xiaomi 11T. Bye bye.